Hey, welcome back everyone. Eli Montague here of the WTBA. Today I'm going to talk to you about reach. But it's also a continuation of my previous video, the last one I put out, where I spoke about the benefits of using a straight punch. I was speaking about the fact that the reach benefit, the reach gained by using a fist comparatively to a palm strike, far outweighs any of the negative points that people commonly talk about when using fists, like, oh, you might break your fist, oh, you might cut your hand on his teeth, things like that. Palm strikes are fantastic for certain situations, certain angles, certain positions, and so on. But if you think that they should replace the fist entirely, at least entirely for head strikes, then continue watching, and I'm sure you'll find this quite interesting. Reach is one of the biggest advantages that you can have against your opponent. If you've got longer reach, you're going to have a big advantage over that person. So let's first have a look at how much reach do we lose when we use the palm comparatively to the fist. Now there's two things you've got to look at when looking at measuring to see how much. It will vary person to person, of course. Your body won't be the same shape and size as my body, but I'll give you a rough idea. So I'll just do it in the air here so you can see me, but naturally you just put your fist on a wall or something like that. Okay, so just imagine there's a wall there. So I've got my fist on a wall, okay? Don't move any part of your body, so don't go like this or something, then you're changing your reach, aren't you? So just the difference of the hand itself to see what reach difference the fist and the palm have. So you're just going to literally do that. So for me, I lose about 3 inches from there to there. It's about a 3-inch loss. But that's not the only loss. When you use a fist, I can reach my arm fully out. Of course, you're not going to lock your elbow joint out, but I can fully extend my arm when I punch someone. If I replace that same thing, let's say, hang on, let's aim at my own, so this is about my own head height, right? Like so. Now, if I replace that same position with a palm, look at the angle of my palm. I'll just bring this in closer so you can see. Look at the angle of that hand. If I straighten the arm right out, you see, the wrist angle is far too great because it's got no more give, you see. A palm strike should be done like that. You see? So that if you happen to hit a little too high on the wrist, on the palm, you've got some room, some give. So you're not going to break your own hand, your wrist rather. But if you lock that joint out, like so, yeah, sure, if you're lucky enough to hit exactly here where you want to hit, that should still be fine. But if you get that just a little bit off and you hit just a little bit too high, try it yourself gently. Put your hand like that, lock your wrist out, and then hit yourself on the top up here. You're going to break your wrist. It's not strong like that. So this basically means if you use the palm with full extension, where you're having to put the wrist in that position, you're not gaining any benefits of strength in the hitting area over the fist anyway. I would actually say the fist is less likely to break than a palm with a poor angle. Now, if we put the correct angle on the palm, like I've said, now it's a softer angle. Now I believe that that will be the strongest, the least likely to break thing that you can do with your palm. But look what I've had to do. I've had to bend the elbow. I've had to drop the elbow. Okay, so there's me striking about my own sort of head height. Okay, I've got to drop from full extension. If I drop the elbow, see, naturally that creates a downward angle, therefore there's less angle on the wrist itself. But of course this means I lose even more reach. And again, for myself personally, I've done the test myself. I'll put my hand on the wall and then bend my elbow enough to the point where I feel like it's a good angle for striking, and I lose another inch. So I'm now losing 4 inches of reach when using a palm comparatively to a fist. Now there's one exception to that. If I'm striking someone with my palm, there's another way to lessen the angle here. I can keep my elbow extended at full reach. I'm going out of frame there, but if I reach up, now, you see, I can bend my arm that much more. you see? So that means same principle. I've got some room, some suspension in there, so I'm hopefully not going to break my own wrist, even though I'm fully extended. So this basically means I'm hitting someone much, much taller than myself. So if you're fighting someone of your own height or shorter, for me personally, my measurements are I lose about 4 inches of reach. If I was fighting someone taller than myself with that upward angle striking to the head, then I'm losing about 3 inches. Now let's put that into perspective. Okay. Most people, just a rough guide, most people are about the same length, like from here to here, your reach length, as from head to toe. So I'm about 6 foot, I can reach about 6 foot, sort of thing. That means that from my halfway point, from my chest, center chest, to there, is going to be half my body height. So if I were 6 foot, I would therefore have 3 feet from here to here. If I were 6'8", I'd be 3 feet 4 inches from here to the end, wouldn't I? So it's not an exact science, but it gives you a rough idea that by using that palm, when fighting someone about the same height as you, when using that palm instead of the fist, if he's using a fist and you're using a palm, you're giving him 4 inches of reach over you. That's like me fighting someone who's 6'8". Okay, there is the other disadvantage to me that his head is also higher up, so that makes it a little bit further away again. But again, I'm just giving you a rough idea here. It's a huge difference in reach. I've not sparred someone 6'8", I don't think, but I've sparred a couple of guys about 6'6", so still considerably taller than myself, but not as much difference as the 4 inches we're talking about. So let's say they've got about 3 inches of reach over me. I have to work so much harder to get a strike in on them. The only reason I've been able to put up a good fight, and in some cases defeat my training partner, who's got that reach advantage, is because I'm stronger than they are, physically stronger, and have a higher skill level than those particular training partners. So that means I can get in. I've got the higher skill level. I have better moving skills. I can get in on them. I've got better strength. So I can get in and grapple, I can grab their arms, I can maneuver myself to get in close and land those strikes. But I still have to work so much harder than someone of the same type of skill level who's my own height. The only way you can beat someone who's a lot bigger, stronger, taller than yourself is either they have no idea that you can fight and they don't take too much care when they attack you, so you might catch them off guard, there's that. But other than that, you have to have a much higher skill level than they do. Size matters. Okay, so what about fingers then? Talking about reach, your fingers are the longest reach, aren't they? Of course, you don't want to strike with your fingers like that, because you'll probably damage your fingers like that. You want to have a little bit of bend so that the fingers, if they hit something, they can bend backwards a little bit. But that's still got a lot more reach than a fist. You can definitely reach further. The problem with them is that they have such a limited thing they can hit, limited targets. Realistically, the only thing you can hit is the eyes. Hit anywhere else in the face, yeah, it'll, a bit of a poke, finger up the nose might hurt him a bit, but it's not going to do any real damage apart from the eyes. Now, yes, you can hit the throat, of course, that's a fantastic target to hit to. But the distance from your sort of facial region to your throat region is about 4 inches. So the reach advantage you're getting with your fingers is taken away by the fact that the throat is further away from you. So you're still not getting that reach that we do with the fist to the face. And as well as only having one target that you can hit with the fingers, the eyes have natural defensive measures built in. So it's pretty difficult to actually poke someone in the eyes. Even someone with no training. Someone with no training, you might be able to punch them straight in the nose pretty easily. But someone with no training, you try to poke them in the eyes, they're going to at least, tuck their head and close their eyes. So you need to be very, very skilled to be able to stick your fingers into someone's eyes. And the point is, if you miss, you get nothing. maybe a broken finger, but you don't get any damage on him. If you're aiming at his eyes and he does that, which is the most common thing he'll do, you whack him in the forehead with your fingers. That's not going to do anything. It's not even going to stun him or, nothing at all. Whereas aim your fist at his nose and he does that same thing. Whatever tuck he does, whether you hit him forehead or around the eye socket, somewhere else, a good hard fist, it's got more weight behind it. It's harder. It will hurt him in some way. It will at least cause a little bit of shock to his system, and maybe you can get him with something else. But the finger strike itself has its place. Brilliant for certain circumstances, but still not a very valid tool as your main weapon of choice for range, because it's only got that limited target region. So just close the distance. Get in close. Take away their reach advantage. Use your palms, but just getting close. Sure, that can work, but not always. Try doing it against a really good boxer who knows how to maintain distance. If a skilled fighter doesn't want you in close, you're not getting in close, unless you're Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was a fairly short heavyweight boxer compared to a lot of his opponents. And he defeated them all, didn't he? But he was Mike Tyson. He was, in my opinion, the greatest boxer who ever lived. You look at the fights when he's fighting those taller guys. Taller guys are still damn good boxers, but Mike Tyson's just in a different league. It's clear, you just watch it. His brute force, his power, his ferocity is so much more than the other guy. And just his pure skill. You look at his reading skills, his sensitivity. He just knows where the other guy's going to be. So yes, he can get in close. But I'm not Mike Tyson. You're probably not Mike Tyson either. People who train self-defense based fighting, traditional martial arts for the purpose of self-defense, we're never going to be on the same level as a world champion fighter. Why? Because we simply don't put in the same amount of time training. We also don't want to injure ourselves as much, so we don't go as hard in our training either. I'm sure it's possible for someone to train a self-defense based martial art to that level. Of course it is. I've never seen it myself. A professional fighter, like a world champion level pro fighter, trains about 6 hours, 6 days a week to be the best fighter they can possibly be. How much training do you do per week of full-on fighting and making every hour count? Not doing a bit of like, oh, I'm going to go and punch the bag now. Oh, just check my messages. No. Professional time frame as well as professional intensity of your training. Have you ever sparred with a world champion, not just a pro fighter? Difference between a start level pro fighter and a world champion is humongous. Have you ever sparred a world champion fighter? I sparred with Carlos Newton on 2 different occasions, and he was just on another level. It felt like he could have beaten me with one hand tied behind his back. His precision and timing was off the charts in comparison to anyone else that I've ever sparred with. Because the only other people I'd sparred with prior to that were people like myself. We do our best, we train hard, but we're not professional fighters. We're not world champion levels. We're not training 6 hours, 6 days a week. You can't develop that level of skill unless you put in that amount of hours. So if you train like a world champion, then you should be able to make just about any fighting principle work on just about anyone. But the only people I've ever met who train like world champions are world champions. Therefore, you should understand what methods to train, what methods will actually work for your skill level. Don't look at someone else pulling it off and say, oh, he did it, therefore it's a good technique. It might be a great technique, but it will only work if you have that level of skill. Us mere mortals have to make use of any little advantage we've got. And having that extra 4 inches of reach compared to the palm, that's one huge advantage. There's other things as well, but obviously this lesson is about reach. Anyway, I hope that's made some sense for you. Hope you've enjoyed. Enjoy your training, guys. Get back to it.